say the red light cameras are the most successful?
Based on the results, yes.
And I guess from the point of view of Ms. Newton, I'm sorry that there's so much confusion on this topic for you, but from my particular point of view, I feel like we've workshopped this thing enough, and I hope this may be the last red light camera workshop for a considerable period of time. Thank you.
Good, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, other presenters today. Mike Fredericks, sorry, just wait for a quick question. I just wanted to confirm, I believe I heard the Mayor and Mr. Kubicki say this earlier, but part of the impetus for this red light camera program was to improve safety, partially because of how the Tampa Bay area was reflected negatively in the Mean Streets reports.
In various reports, the Mean Streets since 1994 or 1996 listed us as one of the worst locations for pedestrian fatalities. As I showed you, a lot of the pedestrian fatalities and critical injuries occur at signalized intersections.
And I just want to make sure, you said 63% of the pedestrian accidents involve right turns.
Left and right turns at
Left.
signalized, at the 300 signalized intersections since 2007.
Okay. Thanks. And the other question I had referred to, like the pie chart of what percentage of the tickets goes to various entities. And again, I just want to confirm that my understanding of a few things. As this program continues, the goal is certainly to add more red lights. So these percentages in that pie chart is not fixed. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on the administrative piece. The state gets a lot of money based on this flat fee based on the number of cameras. I understand that. But if we're to install more cameras and we have more staff people, the retired police officers at headquarters reviewing more tickets, I would imagine that those costs would increase also. And the state doesn't pay for that, we do.
That's correct.
Do you have any other thoughts about what might potentially cause administrative costs to increase or decrease? And if we were sued based on something dealing with a red light camera program, we basically are responsible for those costs as well, not the state.
If we were sued, we would defend it in-house. If we were,
Could you speak up, John?
if we were sued, we would defend it in-house. They have, and I'll let Carl go through the process. If they have the opportunity for several avenues to exhaust their due process before they pay anything. So I don't think, they're going to get sued after they've gone through and exhausted their administrative process or their court process.
Right. I guess my point is that the city's absorbing all the risk for this program, and the state is taking a pretty big chunk of the proceeds. And I just want to know what we could ever anticipate with making sure that the administrative costs stay the same or are decreased, and what are we exposed to if that administrative cost increases?
Well, the administrative costs right now represent a percentage. I would assume that if you expand the program, and like you're going to have, here's one, another one I know about, you would assume that even though the cost may go up, the revenues will go up. So the percentage might stay the same. You would assume that if less tickets are being issued, you could maybe reduce your administrative costs.
As you can see at the start of the program, when we were issuing over 4,000 violations per month, it was the same number of police officers reviewing them as there is now. Only now they spend a little less time, so it's based on law.
Okay, and just one last question.
Costs have remained pretty consistent month to month from the police.
Okay, thank you.
Is most of the cost what goes to the vendor, I'm sorry?
ATS is our contractor, expend most of that pie, and the police is a small amount.
So what you're saying, it wouldn't vary that much.
No.
Okay. And one last question related to possible risk the city could be placed in. Again, presumably we add more red light cameras. It's clearly the law to come to a complete stop before you take a right on red. And yet it seems to me there is a certain subjectivity that's been introduced at red light camera intersections, because many of the tickets for rolling through a red light are thrown out at the ATS level. And then additionally, we have the discretion to dismiss tickets if someone is safely and prudently rolling through a red light under 12 miles an hour, if there's nobody else in the intersection. So I'm wondering if, as the red light cameras proliferate and there's a confusion about, well, do you really have to come to a stop on red? You don't get punished here at this intersection, but you do at this one, or you could. I mean, what if there was an accident that resulted from someone rolling through a red light and at one of these intersections and resulting in a serious injury or fatality? Are we at risk?
I don't believe so. Again, it's carefully improved. The fact that they allow for 12 miles an hour, it still has to be carefully improved. You can't go 12 miles an hour into another car. You get a ticket. You can't go 12 miles an hour and run down a pedestrian. There is discretion there. The confusion has been introduced by the state law that said that you don't have to come to a complete stop when you're using the cameras. You have to just be careful and prudent. As long as we follow that state law, I believe we'll be all right.
Thank you.
Saucer?
Thank you. So Mayor, I appreciate your comments this afternoon, and I agree that public safety is really important. But what I'm left with is the issue of perception, and that for public safety, whether we're talking about crime in a neighborhood or whether we're talking about red light cameras, perception matters just as much as reality. People feel unsafe even if the numbers aren't different. And what this program keeps coming back to is the public perception that we're taking money that wasn't ours to take in the first place. Many of my questions were answered through some of the questions that Councilmember Nurse and Rice asked, but I'm still left with a few that relate to this public perception issue. Earlier this year, we were told that there was a memo from the Florida Department of Transportation telling us to use 0% grade. Now we're being told that was verbal. That's fine. But then the last time we workshopped this issue, we had the discussion that there wasn't enough money in the budget to do an engineering evaluation of every intersection, which doesn't quite make sense considering that we're taking in those dollars. But then I noticed in this presentation that on 2-3 of this year, we did do an engineering evaluation of the grade of those intersections. Can somebody help me understand what prompted us to do that?
We contacted Dallas County and found out how they obtained their grades, and they obtained that data using levels. And the difference between a level and a survey is you basically go out there with a survey instrument, and 100-foot intervals, you measure the difference from A to B to C to D. A survey ties it to an elevation and then reflects cross-sectionally at much greater intervals the precise elevation. So we were able to find a much more cost-effective way to establish grades pursuant to how another government has done so, and therefore went ahead and performed that in order to remove any remaining
by Matt Florell's survey of another intersection. So again, I come back to this public perception issue that, we're trying to fix problems that citizens have brought up rather than us being the ones that are proactively going out and figuring out what that should look like. And I guess it kind of relates to Councilmember Rice's concerns about what type of risk we're taking on as a city. I've seen a number of people, actually, newspapers, people in social media, lots of people with varying subject matter expertise have said that the city could be liable for a public action lawsuit when we have intersections where the yellow light should have been longer based on these grades, as well as, numerous other issues. So I guess I still have concern that's somewhat aligned to Councilmember Rice's concern that the state is taking on many of these dollars, and yet we have a lot of risk that we're assuming here, considering that, again, the perception may be that it wasn't our money to take in the first place if the yellow light should have been longer. So that's my concern at this time.
Okay, Charlie?
Thank you. I probably should not, I wasn't going to say this just recently, and I probably shouldn't say it, but I'm done, because I can't help myself. We'd all like to think, including me, because it would make my job a lot easier, that the law is black and white. That you either did something or you didn't do it. But the fact of the matter is, the law is nothing but gray. And there's highway troopers on the interstate every day who are setting their radar, some of them at 82, some of them at 79, the speed limit's 75. There are 6 or 7 police officers reviewing videos that come from ATS. They are applying subjectivity to every video they review. They are trying to apply their education in law enforcement, their wisdom, their common sense as a citizen, which they're not required to throw out of the doorway. And they're trying to apply good judgment to determine whether someone deserves a violation or not. There is subjectivity everywhere in the law. We're not going to get away from that. The thing you have to try and make sure that your systems, your education, your training, the quality of your personnel take care of is that subjectivity is very high quality subjectivity. That's the best we can do. And I'm satisfied that that is not an issue, at least in the city of St. Petersburg. I can't speak for anybody else. I've personally watched the police officers review videos. When the legislature writes a law that says if you're going to implement red light cameras, you cannot issue citations for right on red turns that are careful and prudent. Guess who gets to decide what careful and prudent means? A human being, a judge, who decided, at least locally, careful and prudent means pretty much 12 miles an hour. I mean, that's just another example of the subjectivity that pervades the law. And we're all, we're human, we're imperfect. And like I said, I think all we can try and do is make sure that the subjectivity that's inherent gets applied with the best values that can be applied. So I'm okay with all of that. I have supported red light cameras from the beginning. I've voted yes for them every single time. And I've always said that as long as there's one less injury, as long as there's one less crash, and if there's less deaths, I'm going to still vote for them. Do you guys have the second year report with you? Because I need to test my own criteria for whether I still support them or not. crashes at red light camera intersections are down 6.5%. But crashes at the comparison intersections are down 9%. So are crashes down at red light camera intersections because crashes are down all over the place? Or are crashes down at red light intersections because there's red light cameras at those intersections? I need to know.
It could be subjective.
That's a $4 million question, and people a lot smarter than I am have spent a career trying to determine that. And that's, again, adding to the level of confusion. How do you determine that?
I don't like the word confusion. They're numbers, and
Anytime you use a number, you can play with it.
well, again, I don't want to play with it. There's numbers that are causing me to be curious about, does one cause the other, does the other one? And I was just asking if you have any sense of, that's all I'm asking, do you have any sense of whether the crashes are down 6.5% because crashes overall are down pretty much the same or a little bit more?
One thing that I'll let you in on is that this last year crashes overall across the city are up. So to show a decrease at
Okay.
these 20 locations, 10 with cameras and 10 without cameras, is, I think, significant when you have an increase overall across the city.
Crashes overall in the city are up, that means intersections, not intersections, just total crashes are
Correct.
up.
But
But
again,
crashes at intersections appear to be down.
at these
Well,
20
they don't appear to be,
intersections.
they are.
But again, the 10 so-called comparable intersections was just a model that we used to try and get a handle on what might be happening at non-camera intersections.
Do you keep statistics for crashes at all of the other intersections, not just these 10, but the rest of the intersections in the city, which would be 290, or they'd be 290 signalized?
We have them, but again, we haven't completed a full and exhaustive analysis of that yet until the end of the third year. So we have 3 years of data before and 3 years after. So right now, the 10 comparable intersections are intersections that routinely have less crashes than the 10 intersections with cameras, because that's why we put the cameras there. They were having a lot of crashes.
Okay.
Councilmember, if I may, the other question you have to ask is, are those crashes that you're describing, are those caused by red light running, or was there a different cause? Because that changes your numbers also.
I get that,
Exactly.
but then you do get back into subjectivity because there's different definitions of red light running crash versus not red light running crash. People have different views on what that is. So I think, for me anyway, the more meaningful measurement would be intersections overall versus red light camera intersections. But I mean, this says that crashes are down at both. So that's good. I'm not complaining about it. I'm just trying to figure out if we attribute any of it to red light cameras. Injury crashes on page 16 of your 2-year report. Injury crashes at the 22 camera approaches are down 70%.
Correct.
And the 10 comparison intersections, the average remains the same, 10 per year.
Correct.
There's no reduction at non-red light camera intersections.
Injury crashes. Correct.
To me, this is an incredibly powerful measurement that says injury crashes are down 70%. And I just want to make sure I'm reading this chart right.
You are correct. And even at the 10 intersections with cameras, the 16 approaches without cameras have experienced a 25% reduction. So it's greater at the locations with cameras.
Okay. And you mentioned in your report that there were, prior to the installation of cameras at these 10 intersections, there was 2 fatal crashes at these intersections.
Yeah.
And since the implementation of cameras, there's 0 fatal
At their 22 camera approaches. Correct.
crashes. So I mean, I've got one statistic that I'm not quite sure about. I've got two statistics that are very powerful in my mind about safety and health of our citizens. Not just their safety and health, but the other costs that aren't in those pie charts and stuff are the cost to our citizens of car crashes and hospital stays and all that. Well, yeah, I know, but that's even hard for me to quantify. Just knowing that we're helping our citizens reduce that cost, for me, is a meaningful thing. Now, I will say, on First Avenue South and 34th Street, what did we change the yellow from 4.4 to 4.6 because of the grade?
Correct.
So there's a 0.2 second difference that we fixed. And when I say fixed, I mean, we made a mistake. We, the city, made a mistake in calculating the yellow time for that particular intersection. I think, if I remember my numbers right, and Matt will get them right when he comes up here, there's 230, 250 tickets issued at that intersection that had the interval been
776.
776 tickets at that intersection that had the interval been what it was supposed to be. The reviewers probably would not have issued citations. Personally, I mean, this is an administration thing. Personally, I would support refunding those particular tickets at that specific intersection. Because I think we made a mistake. You guys can talk about it, but I would support that. None of us are perfect. We make mistakes, and when we make mistakes, I think we should say so, and I think we made a mistake. That's all.
Let me ask a quick question, just so I'm clear. Of the money that we recover, the 150, or that's charged for that ticket, the 158, 21 of it is city dollars. So how do you propose recovering the more than 80, 85, 83 that is paid to the state or state-directed agency?
So we refund what we can refund, right? I mean, I don't think we can do anything about getting $3 back from the Spine Institute and $10 back from the Trauma Center.
I just wanted to be clear on what your thoughts were.
I don't think we can. I'm just saying the city could get back what the city got. That's all. I'd be okay with that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and anybody else. I think that I mentioned this some time ago, and I have this little sheet from an organization called the National Motorists Association. And it says, talking about the city of St. Petersburg, locals know that running a red light is epidemic in St. Petersburg. Therefore, first out on a green light, you have to look. Major intersections are dangerous because a fresh red light is just a suggestion. Someone will run the red light, and installation of red light cameras is in the talking stages, was 3 years ago, 4 years ago. So that was what the perception was before we put our cameras in. That this place here was, everybody ran lights. And the Florida Driver's Handbook, which I have, and I've kept it, and I know pretty well by heart, but there's a few laws changing. And it does say in here that you do stop completely at a red light, and as Mr. Berg said, and he is correct, there is a little bit of, there's a little bit of leeway in there. And it really comes down to running the light. If, the officer has to make that determination, and if blatantly run it, that's a different story than if you, oops, I ran it, but nobody was in danger, and police officer makes that determination whether or not he's going to issue the citation. The right on red is always, that has been abused since day one, and I will tell you, when I was teaching this course, I always thought it was a stupid rule, but nonetheless I had to teach it, because it should be yield the right of way, and by allowing cars to roll up now at 10 miles or 12 miles an hour and make the turn, you still have the caveat, is it safe to do so? Is a pedestrian here? Absolutely not. But I always thought that that should have been a yield. But nonetheless, it wasn't, and that's the way the state law was, and you have to assume that responsibility. So we have a local judge who has, I thought, applied a little bit of common sense to it, and if it's something that no one is in danger and you make the turn, they're going to let it go. But if somebody steps off the curb, you're responsible. You certainly don't want to have a pedestrian as a hood on. And so, you know, Mr. Curtis is right. The law is, you know, it's black and white, it's pretty gray. And so, you know, and I'm looking at this list of money and how it's allocated. You realize that there's $70 that goes to state general revenue fund. Out of that, there's a fund that goes to traffic. I think, and I probably the mayor has heard about the Schlossberg fund. Schlossberg is a state senator or
State
rep from over on the East Coast, and he had a dog that was killed by red light runner. And the money that goes into that fund, that $70, is funds the Schlossberg fund that goes to all high schools in the state of Florida in some form. Now, obviously, I'm not sure how much it is, but that goes to help fund our education. And not just in schools, but generally in the state. So, fortunately, that $70 actually doesn't impact us in just a different way. It's so many things I don't even know where to start. You know, I think for us to look at $21 as a big money maker is a joke. We can get the lumber cans back and make more. That was our intention. And the money is certainly important to us as far as being able to continue to educate. That goes, part of that money goes into our budget, which eventually ends up across crossing guards. That's part of our budget. We divvy out our budget. There's money in here for us to put, crossing guards. So, we're not, it's not like we're going to have a big party. $20 doesn't go very far. And just a real, and I heard this debate here back and forth about the times going through an intersection. So I'm going to, pardon me, I'm going to throw my hat on again as a driver teacher. Trying to help you out a little bit here. That 3/4 of a second is considered normal reaction time. That would be done in laboratory conditions. Most of the time it's close to a full second. That's the time your foot leaves the gas pedal, touches the brake, your car is still moving. And if you're traveling at 35 miles an hour, by the way, the legal limit in municipalities is 30 miles an hour unless posted. So we're just doing what's legally posted. 30 miles an hour, and you react, and your foot goes from the gas pedal to the brake pedal, your car has traveled 33 feet. Then when you start to stop yet. Then you have to push your foot on the brake. When your foot hits the brake, now the braking distance comes into play. And of course, what do you have considered there? You have the condition of the brakes or the type of brakes. whether they're drum brakes or disc brakes. You have type of road you're on. Is it a gravel road? Is it a paved road? Is it a dirt road or a shell road? How good are your tires? Are they bald? Are they good, radial, whatever? And then, of course, you throw in the weather on top of it. Has it been raining? Is it, did you get sun glare in your face? Well, that doesn't exactly stop it, I guess, but there's a lot of variables that are into all that. So when you're putting the timing at a light, and if I'm not mistaken, the time when the light turns from green and cycles to yellow, there's probably milliseconds involved in there. And of course, when you add milliseconds on either end of that, and over a long period of time, then, you know, it's not exact. You can only be so close, because the light doesn't go green with the yellow coming up behind it. There is a definite shut off or turn on of the lights, and there is a period of time in there. The same when it goes from yellow to red. So, you know, I think if you maintain the proper speed, you do what you're supposed to be doing, and you don't have a problem. And when you speed, if the speed limit is 30 and you decide to go 40, your reaction time now is jumped from 33 feet to 44 minimum. You do 45, it goes to 49 feet. 50 goes to 55. So it exacerbates your distance. So that's kind of where I'm coming. The yellow thing is great, and the grade, by the way, the grade is kind of a new thing. I don't think when originally the bill was put in, red light cameras, I don't think grades were considered, were they?
No.
No. And so that's kind of a new, and it's part of the continuing education of the program. We are not stagnant. I will guarantee you that the city of St. Petersburg is so proactive, largely to Matt Burrell. He's kind of kept us going. But we have pretty smart people over here too. But, we have been very proactive, and we are correcting a lot of deficiencies, and I think they're pretty minor, to be honest with you. Because the truth of the matter is, if you maintain your speed limit, proper speed, you won't have a rear end collision. It drives me nuts when people say we're having more rear end collisions because of the red light cameras. Well, in the handbook, friends, it tells you maintain a proper following distance. It is your fault if you hit somebody from behind. It is your fault. And so, you know, it comes back, and I'm going to close with this. We are trying to make an illegal act, if you will, running a light. We're trying to somehow justify being illegal. Drives me crazy. Illegal, it's put there for our safety. And you start stretching because somebody is disgruntled because they got a speeding ticket. Well, hello. Run a school bus and see what it costs you. Remember, the fine for school bus used to be like $130. Now it's $280 or something. It's huge. Maybe that's what we need to do is, you know, when you start hitting a wallet, you start, you know, getting people's attention. So anyway, that's all I have to say. I'm off my soapbox. I'll put my drug ready to move on. Mr. Kennedy, you just said you wanted to...
Yeah, thank you. There was two things brought up by colleagues that I want to follow up on. Amy was asking about the risk of the city. Could you give us an opinion as to whether we are running any risk by operating this red light camera project?
You're running no more risk than running a program when you're stopping using police officers. I mean, who knows if they're 2 seconds off, or 2/10 of a second off. Furthermore, you have in both instances. You have full access to the courts, to fight the ticket, to have due process, to avail yourself. Now they have two different ways of you can go. One is the administrative hearing officer, and one is full court, and you can bring up all those issues as you wish. And so if you don't use those processes, if you just pay your ticket, I think you skip an important step, and you may have waived your right to sue.
Well,
Can I just ask a clarifying question about that?
Sure.
So in these cases of 3 intersections where we have now changed the grade, which changed the timing by a couple of seconds, and a lot of our tickets come from that, if you did not pursue that path of going after, going to the hearing, all of those paths available, because you didn't know there was a problem with how we were calculating that timing, that's my question. Is there then, that we didn't do our due diligence on the front side to survey?
We were following, at the time, DOT instructions. Whether that would give us a defense, I think it would. Can I guarantee you that?
And DOT says they never gave us that instruction. That's my question, though. Because DOT is saying they never gave us that instruction. So in that case, would we then have liability?
They did not say that.
They did not give you those use level?
Just to respond to your question, DOT did not say, or did say to, number one, use 0 if you don't have a better grade of these approaches. It's not my department, but I was involved in the conversation. They did say that. And they also approved the timing based upon the 0 grades at those intersections. Just kind of clarify that, both of those things did
These are
occur.
DOT. These are all DOT controlled roads.
That's correct. All of these are DOT controlled roads and they approved the
And you have
timing at all
DOT.
these intersections.
So even though they told us verbally this, and we don't have a way to prove that, because they've said verbally to utter something different since then, but they had to approve our timing, so that is one layer of protection then.
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
Thank you.
And we would use all of it. Again, you're talking about camera-controlled intersections. I don't know how many intersections we have in the city.
300
300
signal.
signalized intersections. I don't know whether we've taken grade into consideration on that or not. Probably we'll have some sort of program to do that if that becomes important. But as Coach said, you're talking 0.2 of a second at 30 miles an hour. Actually, I got a little different number.
33 feet.
I got a 44.
Well, 44 is at 40 miles an hour.
About 88 to 60.
I'll tell you the way you figure it out. You take the speed limit you go on, take the first digit and add it to it, and that's how you, that's the way the national system is.
But anyway, if you're talking 0.2 of a second, you're taking less than a car.
And John, isn't there also, I mean, from a municipality point of view, there's a difference between a municipality being negligent and a municipality doing things within the administration of discretion? Isn't there?
There's a planning function versus an operational function.
So wouldn't this fall within the planning function for which there's basically?
Well, I think we would argue that. I think the biggest thing is that DOT, who controls these roads, approved these plans. I mean, these are not our roads, these are DOT roads. And they approved these signalized times.
So there's levels of defense. One is DOT approved it. The second one is it's within an administrative function,
It's a planning.
planning function. So I hear the concern, but I think some of the legal advice on the blog may not be fully accurate and thought through in that regard. And then, I know that was your question I was following up on. Did you have anything else?
No.
I just, Joe Patrick can't help himself, he's 70. And he defends most of our cities, and he says he sees no liability, period.
Thank you.
And Mike, one more. Following up with Charlie, talking about what Matt said was a 776 with the interval. Is it accurate to say that there is photographic evidence that shows these cars entering the intersection when the light is red?
100%.
So basically, it's kind of and Charlie, from the point of view of that, the refund on that, I mean, it's taking a point that had these drivers known that the light was 0.2 of a second red quicker, they somehow were going through a yellow light instead of a red light. I mean, they're still seeing a red light when they're going through the intersection.
But the reason for the grade component, I'm not an engineer, but I think this is common sense. The reason for the grade component of the formula is physics. You have a mass of steel traveling at a certain speed, and if you're at a decline, coming to a safe stop is more difficult. Therefore, they provide for an extra tenths of seconds. And the driver in that car may not have felt it was safe to stop. I'm not coming from whether the red light was red or not. I'm coming from the interval, according to the formula, should have been X. It was Y. We know it was Y. And whether it was legal or illegal, we made a mistake in the formula. I'm coming from, I personally think it's just the right thing to do to acknowledge we made a mistake, we're going to make it right as best we can because we can't make it right fully. That's where I'm coming from.
So looking at the pie truck, we spent $15?
Whatever we have to send that.
And I'm just trying to understand that theory. I don't necessarily agree with that. I just want to.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Steve?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So we gave some tickets based on 0.2 of a second.
I don't know how many were based on, I don't know whether they were a half car length through or 3 car lengths through. If they were 3 car lengths through, 0.2 of a second would have been.
I want staff to answer this. How many of those tickets in question at that particular intersection was based on 2, or how many tickets have been issued based on 0.2 of a second? I mean, give me an idea, because this was sold as,
according to
from the get-go, it's going to be used very prudently, because people ramming through and slamming through intersections. 2 tenths of a second is,
according to the pie chart that's included in the
2 tenths of that. I mean,
1.1 second is 10% of the tickets, 0.2 seconds is 14% of the tickets. 24% of the tickets issued are 0.1 and 0.2.
13,000. Does staff agree with that? Yes. Yeah, I figured you might, since it was your chart. 0.2 of a second. And for me, it's really easy equation. I'm a no on that. I just think that's, I don't think there's a single officer out there that issues a ticket based on 0.2 of a second. And this was not what we were told we were going to be doing. It was these egregious violations. I think 0.2 of a second could be the difference between you're at the cross line and you don't have time to stop myself from driving.
intersection was it?
First south to 34th Street.
34th and what?
First south.
So, but I think if we stop and think about that a little bit, I will support if the cameras are test, I will make a motion to institute a time period. That's a all clear time period like some other cities have done, to make sure that we don't have that issue, because I think that's a little bit unfair to our citizens. If we're doing it based on 0.2 of a second, I think that's ridiculous.
Okay, we're in this wrap-up phase, so please keep your comments from touching along. So, Mr. Newton, you're up, and then Dart, and then Carl.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Everybody keep wondering why this keep coming back. You gotta remember, this was a piggyback contract off of Miami. Council didn't get the time to have a workshop and vet this out like we're doing now. That never happened. And as far as having controls over this camera program, only one person and one person only has control of this program, and that's the mayor and this program for our government. Only power that we have is elected officials, and our constituents keep coming to us on this terminate contract with the red light camera company. That's all we have. We can make suggestions, we can do whatever, but bottom line is, as you can see, there's a lot of problems. A lot of problems. You can do 2 things, 3 things, you can blame whoever you want, but the fact remains, if Mr. Farrell had not paid the traffic engineer to do a grade study on 34th Street and First Avenue South, we wouldn't even be sitting there talking about 34th Street and First Avenue South. And the shame of the matter is this, people keep talking about 300 and something intersections. Hear me now, 300 and something. We only got cameras at 10. 10. That's not even 3%. I mean, that's not even that 10% intersections. We got cameras at 10. We can't manage 10 intersections. We can't calibrate 10 cameras at 10, 22 cameras at 10 intersections to be on the money. And as far as that 100% comment about people in the intersection, I would ask Mr. Frederick, and this is a question you, Mr. Frederick, on the right-hand turns, when the people are ticketed for the right-hand turns, is it 100% that they're turning right on red when they get a citation?
Yes.
So it's 100% that they're turning right on red, and it's not safe and proven when they issue a citation. Is
That's
that
on officer's discretion.
okay? So that's 100% of people breaking the law. The law says stop on red. 100%. They all got tickets. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Well, the PC said 100% that they caught got a citation. That's why I asked them that.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If this program, or as this program goes forward, I've been on record for stating this, but just want to say again that it occurs to me it would be a meaningful and significant action to actually earmark the funds that are collected from this program and actually put it towards safety. I think that would go far to build public trust in the purpose of this program. And I'd be very interested in seeing these funds put into not the general revenue, but the transportation safety fund.
Second.
Oh.
We were gonna move.
Well, I didn't think this was the motion. But my question is, I would like to hear what the mayor thinks about that.
That is certainly something that we can look at doing. I think it's important that, and I want to make sure if we're going to do that, that there's a good use that those funds are put to, whether it's through education or if we're using them to provide health care. So that's something I'll need to talk to staff about to work through. Because I don't want to just put them into a fund and not have them go and serve a specific meaningful purpose.
Okay, we could talk more about that later.
Okay, Carl.
Could we go back to that slide, the pie chart of money? Because
Sorry, man, I thought we were ready.
in the first 2 years, when we averaged 2,900 tickets a month at administrative cost of $54, if you multiply $54 per ticket times 2,900 tickets, that's $156,600. Now, if you
now say divide that by January to find out which was 1,043 tickets, which gets you back to what is the administrative cost per ticket. It goes from $54. Now I realize it's a split between ATS and us. It now goes to $150 a ticket. Let me phrase it a different way. When you go from 2,900 tickets a month to 1,043 tickets a month, since ATS's cost is a fixed cost, and ours is relatively fixed, because in fact we're saying we're using the same number of folks to look at the film, by reducing the number of tickets by almost 2/3, that triples the administrative cost per ticket. And what that means in English is that we are below break-even.
ATS is not a fixed cost.
Well,
It's a flat fee, but it's a cost-neutral program.
Cost neutral.
There's a cost-neutral
So-
cost.
you said it was a fixed cost.
It is a
I
fixed
said
cost.
it's fixed cost.
Okay.
It's a fixed cost apparently unless,
It- it-
I'll put the cost.
It's a fixed cost with a cost neutrality. So if we don't get enough revenues per month to pay for the camera, we just pay the amount of revenues we collect.
Each camera stands on its own.
Well, wouldn't you agree then that certainly by 1,000 tickets, that must be below break-even?
It hasn't been.
Well, we haven't settled up January yet, have we?
Not yet. But I have the numbers.
Would you share them with me?
Okay.
No, I'm serious, because I think we are below break-even at this point.
I haven't calculated the piece administrative costs for the third year of the program yet, so I don't know the exact number, but we're still.
Well, what's happening, but it's a radical change in the number of tickets we're writing. I mean, January was 1,043, but you only had to go back 3 or 4 months before you were at 1,500 or 1,600.
As an example, fees to our contractor varied from 95,000 to under 60,000. Never mind. But I can get you up to the details.
And another thing to keep in mind is that if the number of citations go down, the amount of police officer time reviewing those citations goes down. So although it's somewhat flexible on the ATS dollars, it's flexible by our local police department too. Fewer number of notices of violation, fewer number of police officers that need to process them. So I know we keep records of this, Mike keeps those records, we will make that available to you, but I know for the other year we've
I
spoken.
would like to see those hard numbers by month, because we're below break-even.
Mr. Point of information, please. If we have a workshop on red light cameras, why we weren't provided the information that we have? And why we weren't given it ahead of time? About red light cameras.
Just got it.
Oh, you just got that?
We just said it, just got it in November, just got it.
In November? I guess that's a question from the staff, why we weren't provided with that if we had a red light camera workshop.
I swore I could get up here. I'm going to be close to this, but this was a workshop on the program that results of the second year of evaluation of the program. So the statistics that you provided have been provided. Every day we get new information in as more notifications are sent out. But the information that you have is for the first year of the program and the second year of the program. And we are now going into the third year, and we're keeping statistics associated with that. But we weren't today going to be getting into that. We were going to explain to you the information that you have.
Mr. Vicky, if you're trying to convince us to let it keep going, and council's the one who can kill it, shouldn't we have the information like right now? I mean, we have to wait. If that's going to prove that they're working and we're saving money, these questions that Carl bringing up, that's it, now we have breaking, should we have had that today instead of?
We don't have that information computed.
No, we're talking about the workshop now, Mr. Kennedy. We're talking about if we go upstairs and report and kill this, then them numbers won't mean nothing.
Mr. Councilman Newton?
providing the information that we have, that we provided to you in the past, and we were not prepared to answer that specific question today. We're more than happy to answer that question, but there's liable to be many questions that you would ask today, detailing of the program, that we're going to have to get back with you on. This is a very complex program with a lot of statistical information, and we are more than happy to be transparent with it. But saying that all of it's going to be sitting here waiting, computed, to respond to your question, I don't think was reasonable, but we will get that for you.
Okay, so, well, I'll get you all this back from Matt Corral, because he always brought it to us.
Okay.
Yes.
Anybody else? Thank you. Mr. Morelli, you're up.
Thank you, Bob.
Call the time you need, you have about 2 minutes.
And happy birthday to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. That doesn't get you any extra time. Thanks.
I think those against your time.
We're 2 hours in, so I wanted to focus on the short yellows first before talking about red light cameras at all. I'm happy to hear about southbound 22nd South and 34th and 38th North and 34th. I was wondering if I could ask how much those yellow times were changed by, if I'm allowed. It was on. I couldn't see it.
I bring it up.
They're right there. Thank you. So 110, 2 10, okay. I just looked this up while you guys were talking, because I did have 2 hours. That's 617 citations at 22nd South and 34th South with 1/10 of a second into the red. And that is 339 citations at 38th North and 34th Street, based upon. Now, there's a separate left turn signal time on 22nd South and 34th. The left turn signal is 4 seconds, the straight through was 4.3. That is calculating those differences. So that would assume adding a 1/10 of a second to each at that intersection. But you're roughly looking at 950 additional citations that would be considered short yellow. In addition to the 778 First Avenue South and 34th Street. And actually, I wanted to relate it to that, how to pay for it, how you're doing it. Has anybody here contacted Winter Park to find out how they're doing it? They're in the process right now of refunding $90,000 worth of short yellow citations. They announced that last week, and they came out, there was no debate. There was no talking about it. They just said, we're doing this. And then they started mailing out checks.
I can answer that. They're 2 separate issues. Winter Park did not adjust their signal timing by the .4 required seconds by the end of December 31st, 2015. Continued to enforce the program, thereby issuing notices of violation, contradiction to the required signal timing. And therefore, the money that they collected on those, A, hasn't even been paid yet, probably, or has not been divvied up to the state. So it's 2 separate issues.
And the numbers I mentioned, 778, 617, and 339 for those 3 no-slope short yellows, that's just as of the end of October. So there are 2 and 3 additional months, depending upon when those times were changed, that would have see additional people that were cited. That's at least, based upon what I've seen, at least another 100 or possibly 200 citations. More likely 100 additional. So it's something that you can't get the number today because we don't have the number of citations issued up to that point. I want to address